Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dojo Live. It's round two today. We had a show this morning, and we are excited about today's show with Sherry Zhang, who's the CEO of Genopalate. Joining me today is Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico, Carlos
Hello.
Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and I am Tulio Sragusa, broadcasting from Southern California. Today is Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
It's good to be here as ever, Tulio.
Yes. So, Sherry, we're going to be talking to you about healthy eating, healthy living. You're calling it Healthy 4.0. So, we're looking forward to that conversation and what we can learn from you. I'm sure it'll be an interesting conversation, educational conversation for many people. But before we embark in digging in, let's get to know you a little bit, Sherry. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay, nice seeing everybody today. It's a beautiful day by me in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So hope it's by you too. My name is Sherry Zhang, as Tulio introduced nicely. I actually was born a very curious kid, brought up by a loving family of teachers, educators, entrepreneurs, and businessmen. I was, growing up in mainland China. It's a beautiful city, metropolis called Tianjin. So it's more like the northern atmosphere of the mainland, and spent beautiful 20-some years there, and got my bachelor's degree in microbiology, and then decided to leave my loving parents way behind and travel to somewhere called Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have never been to before, but fell in love literally, and fell in love with people, community, the cheese here, and developed my career as a researcher and scientist. So I was actually came here for my graduate school, pursuing my PhD in molecular biology, studied under some really great scientists in the field, and got my PhD in molecular biology in early 2000, and then went down to develop my research career as a biologist. And it's very fortunate I studied obesity and metabolic syndrome after that, under the person who actually coined the metabolic syndrome for our community, and Dr. Ahmed Kasiba, who is unfortunately no longer with us. But I learned a lot and kind of took the torch and published a lot of work. And long story short, or fast forward, I somehow decided that studying obesity genetics using DNA technologies is not fast enough or direct enough for me to help people with knowledge. So many years after preparation, I decided to found a company called Genopalate, which I think we'll have opportunity to discuss what it's about and all the good people behind it and our customers and whatnot. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of, I played piano when I was young, so I always say I'm an artist in nature, but scientist by nurture, but just loving everything lively, love to find out what's going on underneath the surface. What can we do to make people's life a little bit better? I love learning from people. So that's me.
What a great journey, guys! Isn't that amazing? What a great story! Really
Absolutely.
appreciate having you here. So are you became officially a cheesehead? I mean, Wisconsin, that's what they're called, right? I mean, that's
It's funny you said that. I have a
You got the
avatar
big cheese head?
with a cheese head on my head. I have to share that with you.
All right,
the wrong
awesome.
state to try to combat obesity.
Right.
All right.
I'm actually lactose intolerant. Mapped out by my company's test, but it's quite an interesting story of gene and environment.
All right, let's talk about Genopalate. What is it about? What does the company do?
Yeah, hopefully people can tell from the name already. We're trying to link your genome, DNA, you, biology, right? You with your environment of food through the palate, right? Through the deliciousness and how you interact with your environment. But there's a purpose for that, is for healthy. So with my background in metabolic syndrome study, obesity study, which affecting so many people in our society, not only in the US, but globally. Everywhere I go, when I travel back to my homeland, kind of McDonald's takes obesity also to everywhere. So it's a global issue, and then also speaks to the universality of this, our technology, because everybody has a genome, everybody has to eat. So we kind of formulate this almost nutrition intelligence for everybody, right? So we can tell you what's really personalizable for your body, reflecting on all your 2.5 million years of evolution through your ancestors fighting through their environments, right? Mostly taking the environmental cue is your food or their food. And at the end of it, becoming a beautifully unique us, right? So everybody on the call, I can pretty much say how many letters of the differences in your genes are going to differ from each other in a beautiful, beautiful way. So that's also kind of the reason, as a scientist, when I was in the lab, I understand how unique everybody is, how unique we process the same food with totally different outcomes for health, right? And that's why people, when they don't deal with their nutrition in a personalizable way or in a healthy way, they will have a lot of problems. The chronic diseases will come. So that's really kind of the drive and the reason Genopalate was, created or conceived.
Interesting. Very interesting. I have a friend who was one of the people, his company is one of the first companies to crack the genome to do cancer research. And he was the CEO of a large health tech company, and then started this company called Venome, which was using your saliva to figure out the wine that matches best to your palate. And I was like, Ronnie, with all this amazing stuff you've done, it's all about wine. How about figuring out how to solve the problem of what to eat? So it sounds as though you're there. So let's go right into it. Kim, what's the topic of conversation? Let's kick it off.
I just have to say, I'm all about personalizing the wine. I think life is not worth living unless you're enjoying it. And for me, wine is a large part of it.
I hear you, Kim.
But thank you. Thank you so much for being here today, Sherry. It's a pleasure to get to learn about you and from you. The topic for today is Healthy 4.0. How to personalize your nutrition. So let's get to the very crux of this. You're the one who chose today's topic. And my first question is, what is Healthy 4.0? What's 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and where are we now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from the consumer's perspective, also influenced by the knowledge from the research and then the market, the solutions through products, we really evolved from Healthy 1.0 for eating, right? Living and eating, but eating is so important for your health. So the 1.0 started around 70s, 80s, where people started to look out for calorie counting, caloric restrictions, so for weight management, weight loss, through low fat and low carb sort of. It's all research originally based, and then kind of diverge into all sorts of, solutions. And then going forward in about early 2000, there's this movement of Healthy 2.0 that comes where people started to really look out for eating locally, eating green, sustainably farming, eating organic, right? So that is the movement of called Healthy 2.0 for food and nutrition. And then about 10 years ago, so to 2010, it started this movement where you probably all observe or experience or using is the foods that come with functional benefits, right? This is where we've seen so much about power foods, superfoods and things like that. And really creating a huge, I think it's more than $50 billion business of nutraceutical, right? And supplements and herbs and you name it. And then 5 years ago, and a new movement started, or people looking out to before even healthy eating, and people know they can personalize their shoes, they can personalize their experience of clothing and wearing and gears, and or the other one I saw there's a personalizable shampoo. I haven't used it, but I'm very intrigued, right? But it makes total sense, especially when I study obesity for more than a decade. Obesity hit our society hard in the last 30 years, and now coming down is going up, affecting our children. When we all observe that, it's nutrition is such a naturally, make total sense to be personalized for you, regardless of whether you have access to DNA information, which Genopalate can provide you today. But even without, just simply have a healthy nutrition strategy personalized for your age and gender, your preferences, your intolerance level that you have probably observed, and
economic even.
Yes. So there's a lot of opportunity there. People can really leverage. So that's really the Healthy 4.0 movement is about.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. And what is how are you at Genopalate utilizing technology to personalize nutrition?
Yeah. So our secret sauce is really having a special technology we developed in-house through my background in research, and also at Genopalate, we developed so much more on top of that, is to look into we kind of alluded earlier, that we have a way to really tap into your nutritional code inside of your genomic DNA you are born with, right? It's similar to what we can actually observe everybody, like chromosome 16, you have genes that determine whether you have the version of brown eyes or blue eyes, right? But and there's a lot of genes for your taste, for bitterness, and that's why people, when we have a more sensitive bitterness genes for their taste genes, they will actually leaning towards more sweet foods. That's actually associated.
There's a genetic reason as to why Mexicans can handle hot peppers.
There gotta be. It's a acquired, right? Nurture, nature interplay there for sure. There gotta be tolerance genes because it's over time. What happened is the gene pool will be filtered, right? Kind of in a way, as the result of interaction with your special environment, right? So, for example, Celtics, the people living in Ireland originally, they develop a way, because their foods at the time research showed, it was many years ago, shows that they are more deficient or depleted. Their foods and diets are depleted of iron. So what happened is, over hundreds of generations, cells develop a mutation, which actually underneath all the mutations we're measuring today for our diversity for nutrition, is they develop a way so that in two genetic loci, without being too nerdy here and boring out, but the two genes would actually give those Celtics gene pool a way to pull or retain 4 times of the iron than normal people. Now, that was great, right? There's a special way. These people probably at high advantage over other people who don't have that in that food environment. Now, if the people have that genotype today, may at actually very dangerous position for their health, because we are usually surrounded by abundance of everything, including meats and red meats and spinaches, you name it, right? So there's cases where a marathoner was training for running marathons, and who has this genotype and was on a regular red meats and marathoners kind of a training diet, but it got sicker and sicker over time. The reason is because he has this almost like a pump, right? Enzymes to keep retaining the irons from the diet. And eventually, in the worst situation, you could have actually rusty pigmentation on the skin, because all the organs will pull so much of the iron into it, and eventually going to be life endangering. So that's a kind of a case of saying, it's important to understand your particular kind of a genetic blueprint for nutrition. Now leveraging, now we have this great easy access to your genomic DNA.
So,
Hope I didn't lose anybody.
no. This is great. So, well, how does it work? Let's say I want to figure out how to personalize my diet. Do you have some kind of a saliva kit you mail out? What's the logistics of making this work for the consumer? Or is this something you offer through practitioners, like health practitioners? How do you engage with the end user so that they can personalize their diet?
Yeah, absolutely. You are right on, actually. So we offer a non-invasive, so no blood involved, home-based kit. We send it to you after you order that. It's a direct to consumer. We don't work through, we don't have to work through physicians. We do work with physicians or clinicians, practitioners, whatnot, trainers. They can order for you, for their patients, but you can actually just order through our e-commerce site, because the design at the beginning, I worked in biomedical hospital clinical setting for many, many years. The research there is very powerful, but the problem is we're not delivering in a direct to consumer way or direct way, so that the barriers is low enough. The access to that, we want to access to your genomic code so we can help you eat healthy, right? That barrier, that access have to be lower to very minimal to none for lots of people to be able to take advantage of that. So from day one, my dream, which is coming true through a great team of people and a lot of supporters and our customers, that we'll be able to offer that directly to consumers with very low barriers. So as a journey, you can order it's a swab actually. We used to do a saliva, but the swab is actually cleaner and the experience is just better. It's as sensitive. You swab it and then we will ship it in, put that into our pre-labeled mailing kit, and then our lab will receive that days later. We'll track everything in a de-identified way to protect everybody's privacy. And then at the lab, we'll do the magic, right? We read all the 3.2 billion letters. We actually cherry pick the about 1 million letters we actually focus on. But our algorithm will ingest and filter just those over 100 biomarkers that are relevant to how fast you metabolize your cup of coffee, wine, alcohol in there, right? Zinc, fatty acid, all the macronutrients, and so on. So 27 different nutrients were covered, including substances and sensitivities of gluten and lactose. And then we provide, we do all the hard work. It's a lot of millions of different possibilities, if you can imagine, right? Hundreds of markers, 26 different pathways for nutrition and metabolism. But at the end of it, we want to provide something people can be actionable on and can make their success for their healthy eating. So if you go through our lab, it takes about 4 weeks to 5 weeks to get your results. And then we deliver everything through our digital interface. And then again, that's to have a very frictionless, kind of almost on-site. You can take it to the grocery store with the optimal foods that we matched up for your genetics, right? So we kind of go deeply into that healthy eating journey, originally informed by our genetic algorithm reading.
Fascinating.
Sherry, I got a question. Well, let me go back a little bit. I envision a number of possibilities because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're dealing with the consumer, directly with the consumer, with the public, right? So you're providing a service, and also the way that you're delivering the outcome, the results, is through a digital platform. So what I see here is the possibility is at a grander scale would be to maybe to gather some kind of large scale data, for example, and then I wonder if it would be possible, if based on this information, this data that you acquire through the process, is there any way that that an estimate can be made regarding, for example, the applications this data could have if you gather it, and how it can benefit the public, the same public that you're serving? How is it? Is there any plan on doing this? Maybe short term, long term, and gathering data and using it to boost your efforts into bringing this very valuable information and education to the general public?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I hear from you is your question is how can we take it to servicing the interest of public health?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You worded it better, so definitely.
Thank you. No, you're very kind. No, it's definitely the populational data power of health is very different from when you look at, we call it the patient zero or n equals 1, right? And what we are doing, which is in a very beautiful setting, is we can actually provide populational insights. I think that's where you're getting at, Carlos, but at very granular, like personal level that has a personal impact for that person's nutrition and healthy. But for example, this is how I think that's where it can be impactful. When we look at, I'm lactose intolerant, and it makes total sense because my parental biological parents are living, breathing, and also their biological pools are very clean, very we call it a homogeneous, so it's pure in a way for that locus, because our ancestors never get exposed to cattle farming, right? But Northern Europeans, Eastern Africa, and Middle Eastern tribes develop that mutation, so they can take advantage of the sugar in milk to become lactose tolerant, right, in adulthood. Because we all can do that when we're a baby, and then we lost that. The gene expression turned on because we want to have a very efficient energy system. That's how our cell work. But in me, it's never turned. It turned off and permanently. So I lose that capability of digesting that. So where I'm getting at is now I'm living in Wisconsin. I all the time tempted by all kinds of cheese and dairy products. But at the same time, I wonder if we look at the general population for their lactose genotype, right? We can pretty much have a prediction of where, how we can distribute the farming, right, the milk and product and so on, who will benefit and who will not benefit from it, who will actually do some harm. Which city, when we look at this in a kind of a general way, we looked at about 10,000 individuals across the board, and then we separated by zip codes. And when we look at New York versus Seattle versus Chicago, the lactose tolerance level are very distinctive, right? So there's a lot to that to leading to that diversity, and probably because some city has more immigrant from different gene pools and compared to others. But nevertheless, I think we can partner with public health agencies, organizations to provide a more smarter, healthy eating solutions.
Sherry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, one more thing is just to wrap up. Okay, so you're dealing with the consumer. You send out the information through the digital platform. Is there any kind of follow-up? Do you do any kind of follow-up, like just to see, check on them and see how they're doing? How do you, beyond the results, how else do you interact with your consumers, with your clients, with your customer base?
Yeah, it's definitely something we are heavily invested in building more of, because that's healthy eating is a lifetime thing, right? It's not a short term. It just won't work. You need to be really in there with them or with me for the long haul, and which we are designed to become. I think today everything is through email contact and through our digital interface. We have a mobile app, and we have, you can access your user accounts with Genopalate from any devices, right? Today, so through there, it's ongoing, and we maintain it, actively, so we can provide you with the support ongoing. If you after you deliver with your product, it's not like a goodbye sort of one-off relationship. We continue have the conversation with you. Our customer support is very robust, so you can reach us through multiple different ways. But beyond that, we also want to be a partner of their interventional efforts, right? Lots of people on our platforms want to lose weight, want to optimize their sleep and energy, and optimize their performance and fitness and so on. So different people come in with different goals, obviously, sometimes multiple goals. So we are going into a more robust engagement program, if you may. Today, we can actually offer for people who wants to cook for their genes. We have a genetically informed recipes crafted, created by trained registered dietitians, and also inspired. We worked with initially chefs to really inspire, make it interesting, delicious for our customers on top of the healthy. We also actually recently have people can, if they want to supplement their whole foods, which we highly recommend to begin with. But you can, if you want to get 100, if I want to get 100% of my zinc and everything else, I have to eat all day long. That's just how our lifestyle is about. And at the same time, you have to take a lot of extra calories necessarily with those, right? So because of that, I want to supplement what I can get from my whole foods, and then the solution is supplements. And we have a very smart way of personalize your supplements now with our understanding of your genetics.
So okay, so this is great. I get a swab at home. I sent it back a week or two later. I get a recommendation on recipes, things I ought to be eating, supplements I need to take in order to achieve optimum health. Can it be customized to specific goals, or is it more generic in terms of, hey, this is what you ought to be eating, this is the supplement you ought to be taking, period? Or is it more like, hey, I'm trying to maybe lose some weight, or I want to, get stronger? Is there some specific goals that can be tailored to, or maybe that's a next generation thing?
That's immediate next generation.
Okay, cool. So it could be intentional to modify something. I kept listening. I'm like, what happens to people that had no problem eating cheese and lactose, and later in life sort of became not intolerant, but almost allergic to it? It's like, is there a way to reverse that? Because I really miss cheese. So is there no? But the final question, because we're up on time. Is there a way to identify through this genomics, basically decoding how to potentially treat some diseases, for example, or allergies, for example, that people might have developed? Does it also include that, or is that part of the evolution of something you're planning as well?
Yeah, it's a loaded question there, because my background now, it's our genes are innocent in a way that they're not prime us for disease or healthy, right? It's kind of a neutral place to begin with. When we interact with our environment in a bad way, so quote unquote, we became a disease state. And sometimes we reverse it, sometimes we can't, right? If that makes sense. So there's no such disease genes, really, to strictly speaking. It's almost the result outcomes can be, negative or positive for that person. So with that kind of mental model, I think it's the same genes. It's the reason we do what we do, is to understanding your genetic capacity first. How does that could be, put you at a risk or higher or lower risks when you're interacting with certain food or air or stress, and you name it, from the environment, so such that we can get to a destiny or a experience or outcomes that you like. So that's really a kind of a dynamic interplay we're trying to tap into.
I love what you're
And
tapping
one more, and
into.
then we'll wrap up.
For you or for me? Because I have some.
No, go ahead, go.
Thank you. What I wanted to tap into is something that you mentioned at the very beginning of our show, and that was, I believe, speed, velocity. And I love that that's what Genopalate is doing, that it's making very personalized healthcare accessible and fast for insight to individuals and even their caregivers of what might be happening with this individual. Going back to like the iron absorption and like something very odd, like who would have thought? Because what I'm attempting to do is super common within my sphere, and it's actually hurting me. And so the importance of being able to discover these types of elements for our personal health as early on as possible. And so thank you just for making this accessible. A lot of the themes that we have on our show is utilizing technology to make that goodness, right, easily accessible to the masses. And so congratulations for what you're doing. Beyond velocity and accessibility, what would you say is a value that identifies Genopalate? What is it like to work with your company?
It's like raising another baby. So I have a son, Genopalate, and I'm sure you heard that from entrepreneurs or CEO and founder. It's a great experience. It's something that you can see from the very beginning, which is different. I don't want to say that in front of my son, but it's maybe better in a way because it's literally a company. It's bigger than myself. I think that's probably the best way of making that into one statement. This is a bigger, better thing that I created. Oh, I think that probably speaks true for my child too. Hopefully one day, he will feel that. But this company is growing so fast, so great. And I'll be able to have the opportunity to work with the best and brightest people, the kindest people in the world, and also servicing everybody in the world. So that's just amazing feeling every day.
Sherry, congratulations. Thank you for being with us. It's amazing how technology is advancing us, even in our health and our nutrition. Encourage everyone to check it out. I'm certainly going to check it out. So thank you again for being with us. Just stay with us for a minute as we go off the air. Please come back, everybody, on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific. We do the recap show. We had 3 shows this week. We don't have a show tomorrow because we're having an off-site meeting. Well, we're always off-site right now, but see you back on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about the next week's shows?
Oh, yes. What do we got coming up next week, Carlos?
Oh, you almost forgot, Tulio. Hey, we got 2 shows, Tulio. We got the one on Tuesday with Rich Khan, the CEO of Anura, which is this is interesting because this is a platform for that accurately exposes bots, malware, and human fraud in digital marketing. So I look forward to that one. Okay, so that's Anura. And then on the following day, on Wednesday, we're going to be featuring a company called bolt.com, which is a platform that connect retailers and shoppers, millions of them, in a unified cross-brand network. So that's what we have for next week, Tulio, right here on Dojo Live next week, Tuesday and Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, as ever. See you then.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.